Good day. This is the periodic table summary. Apart from the elements quiz, where you have to memorize symbols and names of certain elements, all other tests and even the final exam, you'll have the periodic table. It has lots of information, and your job is to be able to pull the information from the table. First thing you should know is that rows are called periods on the periodic table. This is where the word periodic comes from. That as you go up an atomic number, periodically or every so often you run into the same property, like for the alkali metals. Now, each row corresponds to another layer of electrons or electron shells. So if you have an element in the fourth period or fourth row, it's going to have 4 layers of electrons. Columns are vertical, they're running up and down. And we really care about this because elements in the same column are in the same group, they have the same number of outer electrons. That means they have the similar properties, and therefore we say they're in the same chemical family. So group 1 we know we call the alkali metals, 1 outer electron. Group 2, the alkaline earth metals. Group 6, oxygen family. There's another name for it, but we don't worry about that in grade 8. Group 7 are the halogens, 7 outer electrons. And group 8, noble gases, 8 outer electrons. Here it talks about the octet rule. Oct means 8, and having 8 outer electrons means an element will be stable. And other elements are trying to become stable with 8 outer electrons by either gaining or losing electrons. And that's what it talks about in here. So metals, like an alkali metal, has 1 outer electron. It wants to lose that and become a 1 plus ion. If you look at oxygen in group 6, it's a non-metal. It's easier for it to gain 2 electrons to become a 2 minus ion than to lose 6. So they're going to do the easiest thing to become like the nearest noble gas. Here we talk about neon. Neon has an electron arrangement with 10 electrons, 2 in the first, 8 in the second shell. And N3 minus, F minus, Na plus all have 10 electrons, so they are isoelectronic with neon. And there's a reminder for the kind of charges they form. Now, if you forget this, if you go to the back of your periodic table, it actually tells you the charge for each element in those different groups. We should know where transition metals are, the rare earth metals, lanthanides and actinides. We did a thing on properties, so here are some examples of metallic properties, and here are some examples of non-metallic properties. We should know that as we go down a group, elements become more metallic. As we go to the left, elements become more metallic. Therefore, as we go to the right and up, elements become more non-metallic. We have a staircase separating the metals from the non-metals. Elements near the staircase will have the properties of both and are typically called metalloids. Noble gases are their own group. They're non-reactive, and therefore they're not metals or non-metals. And hydrogen can lose an electron to be like a metal, and it can gain an electron to be like a non-metal, form a hydride ion. There won't be much on history, but we have someone named Bohr, Niels Bohr. And he studied what's called the visible spectra of elements and came up with the idea of electron shells. The electrons could only exist at certain locations, what we call shells or orbitals, and these surround the nucleus. So, reminders about the Bohr models in group 1, or not group 1, in the first row I should say, we will have up to 2 electrons. So helium violates the octet rule. I say I got to work on my typing here. You can fix that too. Let's see how I do there. Anyways, elements in the first row will have 2 electrons. So helium is full when it has 2 outer electrons. But after that, elements are going to want 8 outer electrons. So that's a recap of the periodic table. The previous video was a recap of the atom. Knowing those things is going to help you this year and in the coming years as you explore chemistry.